So I'm going to try to jump back into this quantum physics discussion. I posted a response to Simon Odell a few days ago. I think he's going to get back to me tomorrow. I've also been watching Chris Harrigan's videos, so I wanted to chime in as a response to one of his videos. His latest one about the foundations of physics and mathematics, because that to me is the key issue that quantum physics forces us to consider, rather than expect any particular interpretation, metaphysical interpretation of quantum physics to be the true theory about what reality actually is. I think what quantum physics says is that mathematics actually cannot mirror nature. Mathematics is a human activity. The way we characterize space, even when it's mathematical, it's still based on our embodied experience of experiencing space through our senses. Math is just a very abstract extrapolation from that. The imagination, especially the mathematical imagination, it just breaks reality down into its components and allows the mind to rearrange them in a nearly infinite array of patterns. So mathematicians can get together into communities, create new languages that describe new worlds, and then they can test those inventions in a laboratory setting, where also they use technological inventions to try to twist nature's arm just right so that it exhibits this particular kind of behavior that will allow their theory to remain possible. Doesn't necessarily prove it right, just allows it to remain possible. To me it seems we could go on endlessly doing this kind of thing and never actually arrive at the final finished theory, because mathematics does not have any transcendental foundations. We didn't find numbers in the natural world. We found them in our observation of the world, in our ability to be perceptual organisms, our consciousness. People have been trying to relate quantum physics to consciousness, and it seems like most people, or at least some people, say that's just complete bullshit. You're confusing two different levels of reality, and just because quantum physics is mystical doesn't mean consciousness is magic. If quantum physics is mystical at all. And then there's other people who say, well, wait a minute, quantum mechanics is really, it seems more like quantum organics. It makes the universe seem more like a living organism that, much like, the normal kind of organisms we're used to thinking about, it's sort of connected at a distance, and it, just like our body has one genetic sequence, but it's duplicated by every cell in my body. And certainly each of those genetic sequences in that particular cell is located in a particular region relative to the other cells, and so it exhibits specific traits. Some cells become part of my heart, and some become part of my brain, and some become my skin. They all start from the same stem, but they diversify it, but they're still all connected. They work together for this common project. And we see that happening all throughout the physical universe. What we think of as a material universe, actually a mostly empty universe, mostly filled with nothing, just empty space, just a very little bit of matter. We call it a material universe, and it's basically dead stuff, random collisions of particles. It's completely determined, and there's nothing autonomous. There's no real creation. There's no creativity. When in fact, it may be a small part of the total universe, relatively speaking, but still, there's got to be life on other planets. If anybody disagrees, tell me why, because it just seems like the more we look around, the more we see commonalities between, you know, all the galaxies and all the solar systems that we can see around us. So I would think that there's other Earth-like planets somewhere, or maybe life that's not even based in carbon chemistry, but is somehow arranged itself and, you know, developed this ability to reproduce itself with other elements, you know, at a whole nother chain of, or a whole nother level of, you know, organization. So the universe is basically, as much as it is material, it's also living. Matter comes to life. And at least on Earth, and probably on, you know, not every living planet, but on some living planets, there's this intelligent stuff. Human beings, you know, with language. So apparently the universe is also a conscious universe. It's material, it's biological, and it's conscious. It's mental. And then, you know, if we've gotten this far, it seems as though the next stage in evolution is for reality to become spiritual. And, you know, that's a bold assertion that we'll have to talk about in later videos, I guess, because, you know, I don't want to sound like or play into that role that Simon, I don't know if he's going to put me there. He hasn't responded to my video yet, but he may put me into the New Age hippie camp that just is trying to, you know, throw all kind of magical spice onto, or dust onto quantum physics to make it, you know, prove spirituality or anything. I'm not trying to make it prove anything. What I get from it is that we can't prove anything about what the material world is in itself. That's all I get from quantum physics. I also get the idea that reality is organic. You know, think about these characteristics that we find in our experiments: non-locality, complementarity. We can't know two things at once. It's kind of like when you dissect an animal. You can't know how it works and also be in there, you know, looking around and cutting things up to see what's going on inside. The quantum world is looking at reality in terms of it being basically alive. Does that mean non-deterministic or deterministic? I don't know, because the universe is all one thing, so basically it's self-determining. So if you want to look at it that way, but at the same time, life is autonomous. If this is a determined universe, how did this happen? How did this dog, how did any of this happen? This came out of matter, and if it's just the outplaying of laws and entropy, why did it get so damn complex? I mean, materialism can only say, just fluke accident, I guess. I mean, is that an answer? It was an accident? That's the best science can do? No, there's actually self-organization occurring. Emergent properties, matter can become alive. And so to think of it as dead, maybe that was incorrect. Maybe matter is just potential life. You know, this new way of looking at reality, this is what I get out of quantum physics. And it all comes from a philosophical Buddhist angle, no doubt. And I'll admit right off the bat that, you know, my training in mathematics is minimal. I think the highest I got was Algebra 2. No understanding whatsoever of the actual quantum equations. I know what the wave function is supposed to describe, and I know the paradoxes of the experiments, but I don't know how the equation actually works. So I'm not trying to, though, really try to figure out what the right mathematical interpretation of quantum physics is, because, like I said, the lesson I learned from quantum physics is that language, whether it's English or mathematics, cannot represent the objective world. And once we've established that, a lot of things follow, but we'll leave that for later discussions, I guess. So yeah, looking forward to this ongoing discussion, because quantum physics, well, you know, any idea can really be related to any other idea, at least if you think about it deeply enough, or creatively enough. That could be an interesting challenge. Maybe one video I'll have people just name 3 random things, topics, philosophies, ideas, you know, I don't know, people, places, whatever, and see if I can relate them in some coherent fashion. That could be fun. You know, and this is just another fundamental property of the quantum universe. Everything is related. Everything is connected. Sounds like new age hippie, airy-fairy spiritual nonsense, but you know, we'll get into that later, I guess. So yeah, signing off for now. Take it easy, guys.